Assalamu alaikum, and hello to everyone gathered here. Thank you, all of you, for making the time to be able to stand with us today in solidarity and support of our community, of what's happened back in Afghanistan, and showing your support. I would like to pay my special thanks to all of those guests. I can see Patrick with us today, and everyone else outside of the Afghan community, from the wider Christchurch community, whatever your background may be, thank you for being here with us today. We've got a program of speakers outlined, and we first start by the recitations of the Holy Book of Quran al-Karim, recited by Haji Jafar.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون يا الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
تشکر از حاجی جعفر که با تلاوت از آیه قرآن کریم دلهایمان را روشن ساخت. در این قسمت برنامه از آقای پاتریک دعوت میکنیم تا با سخنانش ما را مسرور سازد.
Thank you very much. And now we're pleased to have Mr. Patrick, who has been a very big supporter of our community right from the start. We really appreciate everything you do for us, Patrick, and we appreciate you being here today.
Well, in Maori language, and I'm sure some of the little kids know some Maori words, kia ora, and no mai, haere mai, no mai, which means welcome, welcome. And this place that we're standing in here today is a place where the spirit of protest, the spirit of what you're doing today, has been here for many, many reasons over many, many years. And those of us who have protested against bad things happening in the world have been here ourselves. And now it's such a joy, although that is not really the right word, to see you all here today, Hazara people, fighting for justice and love in your communities, which is just so fantastic. And again, in Maori language, there's a beautiful saying, and it goes, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And it means it is people, it is people, it is people. That the most important thing in the world is people. And your beautiful words, sir, you know, that you've just said are so strong. We do read and understand every day about the atrocities of the Taliban, not just in Kabul, but in many other places in Afghanistan. And last week, those 50 shahada that died, girls trying to have an education, was the most terrible things for us to learn about. You people have been fantastic in our city. I hope that we have welcomed you as much as we can, but we could do better. We can always do better. But your community have been fantastic. So, tashakur everybody, be strong. Kia kaha, another Maori word meaning be strong. Kia kaha. All the best.
Thank you very much to Mr. Patrick OConnor for those beautiful words. And again, I thank you for being a great supporter of the community. And Mr. Patrick OConnor is so very right. We need your help. We need everyone's help to raise awareness about the situation of Hazaras in Afghanistan, about the ongoing genocide, and we really need everyone on board. Before we invite the next speaker to the stage, we will give one more chant. I will say, stop Hazara genocide. You say, stop, stop, stop. Stop Hazara genocide. Stop, stop, stop. Stop Hazara genocide. Stop, stop, stop. Stop Hazara genocide. Stop, stop, stop. Louder, stop Hazara genocide. Stop, stop, stop. Everyone, stop Hazara genocide. Stop, stop, stop. And now follow me. Stop Hazara genocide! Stop Hazara genocide! We would like to invite to the stage our sister Parvin Kawa to come and speak to us. Ms. Parvin Kawa.
Assalamu alaikum, Kiora, and good evening to everyone. My name is Parvin Kawa. I'm 16 years old, and I'll be giving a short speech about the recent attack in Kabul, Afghanistan. On the 30th of October 2022, a suicide bomber blew himself up in the educational center in Kabul, where there were more than a couple of hundred young people, mainly Hazara female students, who were sitting their exam early in the morning. The blast took place at Kaj Educational Center in western Kabul in a predominantly Hazara neighborhood. The blast killed more than 52 people and more than 80 people were injured. Not only the majority of the people affected by this attack were young women, but they were also Hazara, all between the ages of 18 to 25. Those girls had gone to school that day to sit their practice university entrance exam, unaware of what would happen during the exam. They showed up to school that day unaware that they would be severely injured and some would even lose their lives. They showed up to school unaware that they would be targeted. The reason for it being just solely based on the fact that they were Hazaras.
از پروین جان صمیمانه تشکر میکنیم. در این قسمتی برنامه به سخنان خانم افضلی گوش میدهیم. خانم افضلی تا آمدنشان شعار میدهیم.
What was their crime?
Education, education, education.
What was their crime?
Education, education, education.
Hazaras are not safe. Hazaras are not safe. Every day, every night. Every day, every night. Thank you very much. And now we have the pleasure of having Sister Afzali with us, who will speak with us.
واقعا سخت متاسفم از خداوند برای آنانی که در این دوران تلخ و سخت بالخصوص مادران و خانواده هایی که شاهد ضایعه اسفناک جوانان رشیدشان هستند صبر و شکیبایی مسئلت می‌دارم. پارچه شعر انتخاب شده ای که نمایانگر درد و احساس صدها مادر دیده ملت ماست و اجازه شما مادران و برادران به خوانش میگیرم. بیا مادر که جسمم را دریدن، بیا مادر که جسمم را دریدن، تمام پیکرم در خون کشیدن. بزانویت بمان مادر سرم را، نوازش کن تو خونین پیکرم را. رسیدم من ببین ای نازنینم، رسیدم من ببین ای نازنینم، کنارت آمدم ای محجبینم. فدایت گردد این غم دیده مادر، فدایت گردد این غم دیده مادر، نوازش میکنم صد پاره پیکر.
تشکر از خانم افضلی که دردی مادرای افغانستان را در چند قطعه شعر برای ما گویا کرد.
Hazaras are not safe.
Genocide, genocide.
Hazaras are not safe.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
Thank you very much. And I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Gholami to speak with us.
First of all, thank you everybody to come here, stand with us, raise your voice for the poorest people in the world who has no voice. The only crime they committed is to go for education. Instead of choosing gun, they choose pen and paper. And that's the only crime they committed. And they are getting killed in the education center just because being there, just being looking for getting education, because darkness scared of light. The Hazara have a long story of persecution in Afghanistan. In fact, the name of Afghanistan came in place by persecution, an ethnic cleansing of tribes, mainly Hazaras. The Afghan are one of the main ethnicities in Afghanistan. The Afghan name came in place by force killing other, especially Hazaras. Hazaras are the most persecuted people in Afghanistan in over a century, followed by any other government, even a democratic government supported by World Health Organization in countries. He ordered the coaches to confiscate Hazara's land and properties. He drew and patterned on awful rules that even enforced today. Hazaras are forced to conceal their identity, with lots of Hazaras forced to change their religion from Shia group to Sunni group to be a bit safer. Yet, this isn't enough to keep them safe, as they are still get killed just because of their ethnicity and physical appearance. The Hazaras still get killed today, their houses burned, and their properties looted by Pashtun coaches who have the support of the government, every single government. People are killed by Taliban in their villages on the way while they are traveling from one region to another. In their gathering like mosques, schools, hospitals, colleges, universities. So Hazaras are not safe anywhere. The Taliban goes from house to houses looking for Hazaras and gun them down in front of their families and young children. Hazaras are discriminated against by Afghan institutions systematically. They have been targeted over their hard-earned success in education, sport, politics, and their progressive and democratic ideas. Hazara's culture promotes democratic values, social liberalism, and progressive thinking. And that's why we get killed. The Hazaras are so desperate to protect themselves because the government, they are left no choice, but they help to support any democratic government. Since the collapse of the late government in Afghanistan, they are the main target for supporting the previous government. Even the government didn't do anything for Hazara's favor. The Hazaras are not only getting killed randomly, but they are stopped, selected, separated, and then get killed, which is clearly ethnic cleansing, an act of genocide. We are gathered here today to raise our voice against the brutal regime of Taliban, who don't believe in any human values and rights, such as human rights, women's rights, freedom of speech, and any other democratic values. The mainstream media trying to not blame the Taliban, so they put the blame on ISIS, but the people of Afghanistan thinks or believes that the Taliban and ISIS, they are the same thing. There is no difference between the Taliban and the ISIS. So stop Hazara genocide. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Gholami for giving a very detailed outline of what has happened to Hazaras in the past, what is continuing to happen to Hazaras now, and if we don't act, what will continue to happen to Hazaras in the future. So thank you again. Now we have the honor of Mr. Akbari being here, and he's going to speak to us.
دشت ما گر گرگ داشت نمی نالیدیم. دشت ما گر گرگ داشت نمی نالیدیم. اما حیف و دریغا که نصف گله ما را سگ چوپان خورده است. آه خواهرم، آه برادرم، شما بگویید چی بگویم؟ کدام سخنی برای گفتن هست؟ آیا چیزی مانده است که گفته نشده باشد؟
شما بگویید تا کی باید ادامه پیدا کند؟ تا کی ما باید بمیریم بدون هیچ دلیلی؟ تا به کی؟ آیا 100 سال بس نیست؟ چرا بس است دیگر وقت استادن است هموطن، خواهرم و برادرم. چند روز پیش دو تایش در تلویزیون، نمیدانم یکش معاونی امر به معروف بود و دیگرش نمیدانم چی کارا ایسانیک زی، بحث داشتن آیا علم مباح است یا فرض. آیا کسی نیست به این انسان نماها بگوید برادر علم نه مباح است نه فرض، علم لازمه زندگی بشر است. بدون علم امروز اگر علم نداشته باشیم چگونه کشور به پیش رود؟
تشکر از آقای اکبری.
Every day, every night. Genocide, genocide. Louder, every day, every night.
Genocide.
Hazaras are not safe.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
We have Mr. Akram Kawa who will read the demonstration statement. We've written down clearly what we want from the New Zealand community, what we want from the international community, and including the United Nations. Please, Mr. Akram Kawa.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. خسته نباشین قوم. معذرت از اینکه خیلی برنامه دوامدار شد، دوام یخ شده. تقریبا 5 دقیقه دیگه برنامه ما تمام میشه. من فقط اون قطعنامه‌ای که چی خواهش‌های ما از حساب از دولت نیاز دارن و جامعه بین‌المللی داریم امور خدمت شما بیان میکنم به زبان انگلیسی است. 5 دقیقه بیشتر وقتتون نمیگیرم. On October the 1st, 2022, I did the attack on Hazara students preparing for university entry exams in a packed hall in Kabul, Dashti Barchi neighborhood, killed over 50 mostly female members of the Hazara ethnic group. The Hazara Kiwi communities are utterly horrified and shocked by the loss of our innocent sisters and brothers. Afghanistan Hazaras have been targeted for years by the ISIS branch in the country and the Taliban, both of which view Hazaras as heretics. We consider the ongoing systematic attack against our community as acts of genocide against Hazaras. We are one of the 4 largest but most oppressed ethnic groups in Afghanistan. There have been nearly 300 attacks since 2022. These attacks have a long history. In the 1890s, the Hazaras faced genocide, slavery, and massive depopulation that killed 60% of Hazaras. Under the Taliban in the 1990s, Hazaras were victims of at least 9 genocidal massacres. The Taliban massacred between 2,000 and 15,000 Hazaras in Mazar-e-Sharif in 1998. The Taliban massacred hundreds more Hazaras at Bamiyan when they blew up the Sun Buddhas. The Taliban also targeted the Hazaras during the Taliban insurgency under the former Republic government. None of the crimes carried out against Hazaras have been investigated. None of the perpetrators have been arrested or brought to justice. No compensation for victims and their families has been paid. We believe the current situation is a continuation of the systematic discrimination against Hazaras in Afghanistan, which goes beyond the provision of security. The indifference to Hazara security, along with systematic discrimination against Hazaras under the current terrorist regime, have raised concerns about the current and future status of Hazaras in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, census acts of hatred against the Hazara are not new, but they have increased at all levels and becoming even more serious. Although the recent attack has been condemned widely by various international organizations and human rights activists and political figures around the world, condemnation without action does not ultimately guarantee changing the dire situation of Hazaras of Afghanistan. Accordingly, we, the demonstrators, call upon the international organizations, the United Nations, the UN Security Council, NATO member states, the independent democratic states of the world, global figures, and most importantly, the government, parliament, political parties, political figures, and people of New Zealand to urgently demand the following. Recognizing the attacks as genocide and the special situation and vulnerability of Hazaras. There have been numerous incidents of massacres, most of which have been reflected in the international media. However, none of them individually or collectively have yet been recognized by international communities as a genocide. This has put the Hazaras in a miserable state and has added to their ongoing pains and sorrows. A recognition will highlight the issues and oblige the international communities to protect the Hazaras and hopefully stop the systematic atrocities. Number 2, most importantly, we demand the UN, human rights organizations and journalists to recognize that systematic attacks against Hazaras in Afghanistan fulfill the definition of genocide. The international destruction of a substantial part of an ethnic and religious group. Number 3, offering immediate solid protection of Hazaras in Afghanistan by the international community and organizations. Because of their ethnicity, religious affiliation, relatively small population and particular geographical location, the Hazaras are an easy target for terrorist groups. Hence, taking immediate protective measures is a humanitarian obligation. Number 4, the UN and human rights organizations must conduct a comprehensive investigation and fact-finding of the recent terrorist attacks on the Hazaras. Number 5, the UN and international community should initiate urgent consultations with Hazara organizations on practical actions for the protection of Hazaras in Afghanistan. Number 6, the International Criminal Court must open investigations of the atrocities against the Hazara people and should initiate cases against perpetrators for genocide and crimes against humanity. Number 7, the US and international communities must compensate the victims of their families and their families from the frozen cash of more than $7 billion, which belongs to the people of Afghanistan. Number 8, lastly, we demand the New Zealand government to fulfill its obligations to the people of Afghanistan, especially Hazaras. We appreciate and recognize the sacrifice made by the New Zealand Army Forces in Afghanistan. However, its obligations as an independent state of the world remains valid. As a Hazara Kiwi community, we request the New Zealand government to raise concerns regarding the massacres and systematic discrimination against Hazaras of Afghanistan with its international partners. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Hazaras are not safe.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
Every day, every night.
Genocide, genocide.
امیدوارم که صدای از ما را همه رسانه‌های جهانی مخصوصاً نماینده های دنیا بشنوند و هم صدا شود همراه از ما. خیلی بسیار مهم است که ما به عنوان جوانان و کامیونیتی مخصوصاً با هم دیگه جمع بشیم برای دادخواهی مردم از ما، به خاطر از اینکه اگه ما برای خود برای حقوق از خود ایستاد نشیم، کسای دیگه هم دلشون هم به حال از ما.